Well, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to make another spinner. The first one got a lot of interest, so it was just basically made from six 4x4 square panels. This one here is going to be quite a bit different. I'm going to call this one a crazy spinner, because what we're going to do, we're going to design something here. I've drawn a little pattern here, just like a little sketch right here. This is kind of the idea that I'm going to work with. It's going to use a 2x2 bevel here with a glue chip bevel, and then it's going to have two half pieces here, a couple round centers here, and it's going to have like this will be almost like a kite in the middle here. So I've got some ideas size wise, so we'll draw it out, and then after we draw it out, I'll draw it out fairly light on my drawing paper, and then we'll go ahead and we'll make a pattern for it, and then we'll go ahead and we'll start to make this. So this is going to be the spinner itself. It'll have a one hanger here, right here on this top, right like that. So to get started, we're just going to take our T-square, set it in here, and we'll just get us a baseline. Here again, I don't know exactly where this is going to go, so we'll just take on our baseline here and we'll mark an up line. Now these spinners, you could kind of do anything you want to with these things as long as you have a 90-degree corner on it. And we're going to make our 90-degree corner with a standard 45-degree triangle. And we just set this in here like this. And here again, I don't know exactly how big this is going to be yet, so we'll just set this in here, and we'll just go right from the point. Make sure you got it lined up here. We're going to go from point right here. I'm just going to let this go on off here. Don't know exactly where it's going to end up. Then we'll just bring this back over here. And we'll get the other part of the triangle. Okay, so this is a 45. This creates our 90-degree corner right here. So this will be where they go together. In the corner here, right here at the bottom here, we're going to put in a 2x2 bevel with a glue chip on it. So that's going to sit in here like this. So I can just cheat here a little bit, and I'll just set it in here like this. Line it up, point here, point there. And we'll just take and we'll just mark it here. Just like that. And now to fill in these two areas here, we're just going to take our T-square, and we're going to go right up to the edge of our point right here. Right there. And we're going to just take and we're going to come across here like this. That gives us these two here. Basically, they're going to be one half of this one right here. And now here, we're going to make our kite, or our up piece here. On my sketch here, I said, let's try 3.5 inches. So we'll come up here 3.5 inches. And we'll mark that right here. And I'm going to use a 30-60 degree triangle here. And for the up pieces here, we're going to use the 60-degree angle here. Hold this in here. We're going to get right here in the center point here, and we're going to go up. And then we're going to come across here. Just like that. And now here at the 3.5, we're going to come back and we're going to use this at a 30-degree angle. We're just going to move this down here like this. We get it right here where we marked it. And this will give us our, what does this call it for all, let's just give us our kite, or the end of the project, like that. And this is going to have one hanger here. This needs to have one. The other, we'll make 6 of these. 5 of these will have no hangers. Just this one has a hanger. And if you've watched any of my other videos, you'll notice I use a lot of props for different things. For this area right here, because this is the only solder joint right here, we're going to do this with lead U-came. That's not going to make this very strong. So somewhere in here, we need to put a piece of reinforcement. And we're going to use a good old quarter right here. We're going to stick it in here. It happens to be 1 inch in diameter. And I'm just going to hold that right here. And we're just going to take and we're just going to mark around it here. So we're going to put 2 circles right here. And like I said before, this is going to be kind of a little crazy one. So we're going to make this really crazy colors too. We're going to do, up in here, we're going to alternate orange and yellow. Here we're going to alternate orange and yellow. Here we're going to go ahead and we're going to make these all red, these guys right here. And of course this will be clear. So this gives us our dimensions here. So it shows us where our project's going to end. So now what we're going to do, we're going to make a pattern real quickly. I'm going to use just a standard manila folder. I'm going to just take this, you notice I've got this hinged up here at the top. I can just pull that back. I can take and set this in here like this. You could almost make this project without even doing a pattern, but we'll just use, probably the only part of this pattern we're going to use is for to do the kite, the top part of it, because that's the one that'll be the one with the funny angles on it. So we'll just tape that down there. Then we're going to use a piece of carbon paper, carbon side down, remember, otherwise it'll transfer onto the back here. We're just going to pull this down and we'll just tape this real quick. And now we'll go over the areas real quick. We'll go over the areas that we're going to keep. And so in this case here, we know that this is going to quit right here. So we're going to just take our square or our triangle right here, and we're going to press this down fairly hard to make it go through to the carbon paper. We'll come back around. Back up. And then we can do we'll do this right here too while we're here. This is where our bevel's going to be. And like I said, you can design anything you want to go in here. The only thing you have to have is one 90-degree bend right here. Okay, so that gets that part of it. I'm going to come up here and we're going to go across here. This will be our cross piece right here. And now we're going to come up here and we're going to create our kite effect right here. So as you can see, this is a real simple design, but it's going to be pretty crazy looking when it's hung up. So now we'll just come up here. Let me get up here so I don't get in the way here. Make sure you keep your T-square square there so otherwise you don't get some crazy angle on it there. All right. And we'll stick our quarter in here. This is probably not important because we're not going to really worry about where this goes. I'll show you when we get ready to put these together. But we'll draw it in here anyway. There's all kinds of things you can use around your shop or your studio or wherever you're making these projects. You can use for props. So there we go. That's going to be our pattern. You can number these if you wanted to. This would be number 1, number 2, 3, number 4, number 5, and number 6. So anyway, when we pull this apart, here's our pattern. So we're gonna build on top of this one, and we'll just cut this one apart to use as our pattern. I'll take a Sharpie, a fine point pen, and I'll darken these lines in, which will represent our lead came lines. And when I come back, we'll have it on our build board, and we're going to get ready to cut some lead, and we'll get ready to put this together. All right, we're back. So we got our 2x2s all cut here. They're made out of a red water glass, so they're going to give us a nice bright color. This is the front side of the water glass. It has the ripples on it. This is the back side of it here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to cut these in half, and we're going to cut them in half across here. So to do that, we're just going to take a straight edge and we're going to set it in here like this. And now remember, your cutter has these edges right here. Here's the cutting wheel right here in a minute, or the scoring wheel. So when you put your ruler down, remember to leave it away from the points. If you put it right on the points, one of these will be too small. So you can check it by just running your cutting wheel right up to the point here. This one here needs to go in just a little bit, right like that. And then we're just going to take here and we're just going to score this. And then we're going to take our running pliers. We're just going to go right on our score line. And we'll take and make us into 2 pieces now. So I'll go offline and cut the rest of these, but for right now, we're just going to stay online and we'll put those in there and we'll see where they go. So I'm going to turn it up with the good side up. It's going to sit right in here. It's going to push down right there. And it should line up right here with the point, which it does. I'm going to take and put a piece of old U-came here so that it doesn't scratch or chip our glass. Pull this one away. Be sure to turn this over so that they're the matching sides. Put that one right there. And now we're going to take our long piece of U-came. Now that I've got both of them in here, we're going to run it all the way across here. But first, right here is where we're going to make this cut here. And we want to make this on a 45 right here. So right here is how long this needs to be. It's going to be cut on a 45. So that we want this piece to run across there and to marry to that. So we'll go ahead and pull that off. I'm sorry. This needs to be right here. Put it on the wrong side there. Right there. And let's put this one back. Let's move this one over here. Right here. Now we can do this a couple ways. One, I can just push these out of the way. I could pull these out and cut them, or I could cut them right here. Since we're just getting started here, I'm just going to do it just like this. I'm going to take this, and I'm going to cut it right here. And then I'm just going to take my dikes, and I'm going to go in here, cut a 45. And I'll do the same thing here. I'm going to cut it right here. I'm going to cut it on a 45. After we get these dimensions worked out, we'll just take and cut all the lead to match these. And then we can just put these together like an assembly line. This is actually a really simple project, so it won't take very long to get these together. Put this back in here. Make sure you get your angle going the right direction. Push this back in here, like there. And we'll put this one in here. This one's going to sit in here like this. Just like that. I'm going to leave this hanging over here. The reason for that is this one here is going to be a little bit short. We need to make another one of these. This needs to be pushed up here, up to that point right there. So we'll have to make another one of these. This is a little too short. What we're going to do here is when we'll cut this and fold this back underneath there to plug that up so that we don't have a big gap to solder in. So this one here needs to be just a little bit longer. This one here is okay, but we'll take and cut this a little bit and come back and I'll show you what we're going to do with it. So we'll be back in a second. I'll cut a couple of these a little bit longer and then we'll come back and put this in. Okay, so we've got our U-came cut here now to the right size of it we want. We got a nice connection or a nice fit here. You want to be sure you get a nice little fit right here, because when you solder these, if you don't, you'll get kind of a funny looking little notch right here. So try to make those as tight as possible. So now we need to come off of here with our kite. And we're going to use here again another couple pieces of form wood, and we're going to stick them right in here, just like this. We're just going to pin them again because we're not quite sure if that's where we want them. Stick them right there. Okay, so now we're going to cut a couple of pieces of U-cane to go in here. So we'll take this one here. We'll take it, and these are going to be cut real shallow. They're going to be cut way up here like this, and we're just going to cut a little bit off the bottom like that. So that'll fit in here like this. We'll take and cut the top off here. We're going to let them stick out the top here because we're going to finish that off there. And you want them to come down and make a, they want to come down and intersect right here in the middle, right there. So we need another one on the other side. So let's put it in here. We can just eyeball this, approximately this long right here. The reason I'm leaving these all long is because we're going to, when we get to the edge here, when we put the top in here, we're going to fold these over and plug those all up. I'll show you. So if you're watching my other videos, that's how we've done it in the past. So we're just going to make this a shallow cut here. And we'll just take and cut it off here. So this one's going to come down here and this one's going to fit in here like that. So now we need to go offline. Here's our pattern piece that's going to go in there, and it's going to go just like that. And you want this point to line up right where it does, right here on the top. So we'll go offline. I'll just use some glue stick to stick this on the glass, and bring my cutting board back over here. We'll cut that one out real quick, and then we'll go ahead and stick it in there, and then we'll put up the top, and we'll put the hanger on this one so we can show everybody how to do that. So we'll go offline real quick, and I'll get that set up. And then when I come back, we'll cut our, well, we'll just call it a kite. We'll cut the kite to go in here, and then we'll go ahead and set it in here. We'll put the top in here. So we'll be back in a second here. Okay, so we're back. So this is the yellow we're going to use. It's kind of a goldenrod color. This is a glue chip. I purchased quite a bit of colored glue chip years ago, and I haven't even been able to find it anymore, so I just have a few pieces left over. But this is the piece that we're going to cut. This is from we cut out of our pattern right here. You notice I didn't use any of these other pieces because they're pretty straightforward. We got a 2x2, and this is cut in half. These little guys right here, I'll take and cut some pattern circles on it. We'll glue stick those down, or we can use some two-sided tape to put them down. But this is the one we're going to work with right here. And now, because this is exactly the same size, normally when you cut on the smooth side of the glass, you would turn this over so it would be down. But this doesn't make any difference because this is exactly the same size on both pieces. So we can just stick it right in here, and we can actually just stick it on the angle like this. So we're just going to take a little glue stick. It doesn't have to be glued down too tight, but we'll just stick it down here like this. And we're just going to take it and we'll set it in here like this, right against here. So as we're sitting in here, so we know that we can get these in here at this height, so we're going to cut this right across there. So we'll just take and we'll get a straight edge right here, and we'll just cut that right down there. Let's see how big that is. It's right at 3 inches. I happen to have a ruler that's 3 inches. So we'll just set our ruler in here, and we'll just take and we'll score it right here. And you can just take this and just hold it here and pop it. Now what we're going to do, we're going to take our straight edge here again, and we're going to set it in here. Now remember, here again, the legs on your glass cutter have these legs here, so the cutting wheel is in about a 1/16 of an inch. So on your pattern here, allow for that. So if you don't allow for it, you're going to get into a situation where you're going to have it either too big or too little. We have a situation here where I don't really want to cut this all the way up here because that'll be wasting glass. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come in here, I'm going to take a regular mechanical square, and I'm going to set it in here, and I'm going to cut this off straight because I don't want to waste this area up in here. So I'm just going to take this just like this. Make sure we're in the picture here. We're not. Slide this up here. This is just a regular mechanical square. It goes up against here. Hold your glass against it. Cut that across. Here again, that one there you can just hold and snap it. Now, we're going to go right here. Now we don't waste that glass. Space this away just about a 1/16 of an inch, or about the same distance as your gap on your cutter. Set it in here right against the pattern piece. Take and make your score. Do the same thing here. Take your running pliers and just go ahead and pop those out. And there's your kite right here. I'm going to take and grind this back here a little bit because I cut that just a little bit too long. So I'll grind that back just a little bit. And then when we come back, we'll set it in here, and then we'll go ahead and finish off the top of this. So we'll be back in a second here. Okay, so I'm back here. So I took it on the grinder and I matched it up to our pattern here. So that should fit where we want it. So we'll just take and peel this off right now. We're going to save this because we'll use this to cut the rest of them. Let me wipe off any moisture that's on here. So this is going to go down into this little peak right here. This little point right here, I'm going to just touch it on the grinder and make that a little bit flatter. We've got a lot of room to hide stuff underneath here because the channel in here is almost 3/16 of an inch. So we got lots of room to hide things. So we're going to flatten that out just a little bit. So we'll do that on the grinder here. So this piece here is going to go in here like this. Slide in there just like that. Now the reason it's grown past our drawing here is because the thickness of the lead has pushed it back out. And that's fine. We don't really care because they're all going to be exactly the same size. So now from here, I'm just going to take a piece of old U-cane right here. See if I can find one that's a little bit shorter. Here's one. I'm going to stick it in here like this, and I'm going to push this in here tight up for it. And now we're going to cut some U-cane here and a piece here, and we're going to put our hanger in here, and I'll show you how we're going to do that. If you're watching any of my other videos, I'm going to make the hanger out of a 3/32 cotter pin. The legs are going to go down the sides here, and so it'll make a nice strong anchor for it for our spinner. So here now, this is going to run up here like this, in here like this. It's going to butt in right here, and this is going to be cut on an angle here, but a very shallow angle. You'd think that would take more than this, but we're going to cut it right here, and it's going to be almost straight up and down. It's going to be just a little bit of an angle. I'll cut this and show you. Okay, so right here, you see this, that's all we're going to cut it, is just a little bit of an angle like here. So it's just about like that. And that's going to go in here like this. We can take and put a pin in there. And we'll come over on this side and we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to take and we're going to cut one here. Push it in here. Mark it. And we're going to cut this here again. Like I said, it's going to be on a real shallow angle. We want that to match up just like that. Okay, now here, our cotter pin is going to go in here. So in order to get the cotter pin in here, we're going to take this and we're going to take and put a notch in it. Like that. We're going to take this one out here and we're going to put a notch in it too. Just like that. So they'll go in here. So the cotter pin will come right out of the top here. And the legs of the cotter pin are going to run down here. So let me go offline, get a cotter pin, and I'll come back and we're going to show you how we bend it. So we'll pull these out of here for right now. Those are the pieces that are going to go on the top. I just put this little piece in here to keep everything in place. And I'll be back in a second. I'll get my cotter pin out and a pair of long nose pliers, and we'll go ahead and bend it to match this. So we'll be back in a second here. All right, we're back. I got my cotter pin here now. This is a 3/32 steel zinc plated cotter pin. If you're going to use this kind of a hanger method, this is something I dreamed up a long time ago when we lived in Lake Havasu, Arizona. Had a lot of wind out there. I was always afraid that these, you saw it in a ring or something on there, might fly off. So this goes down inside underneath the cane, so it's hidden. And to make this work, you just take your piece of your long nose pliers here, set it into the loop here. And I have a piece of tubing here, this little brass tubing. It's 3/32 across the opening here. You slide it on the leg and you pull the leg out. And I'm just going to eyeball this till we get it where we want it. And these legs are going to fit down inside of here. As you can see, that's not quite enough. You need to be out more than that. If you go out too far, you can always bring it back just by squeezing the ends of it back in. Sometimes it's better if you go out a little bit too flat and then bring it back in. Like that right there. So now I just need to take it like this, hold it, and tweak it in just a little bit. And that's what I want right there. So this piece here goes in here like this. This slides down in between there, and the notch allows for these down pieces here. Just like that. This piece here, the notch goes in here like this. And pulls over and goes just exactly like that. Gives us our hanger right in the middle of where we want it. We can take and pin it. There we go. That's exactly what we want right there. Now, the circles now, I'm going to alternate these. This is the yellow piece. We're going to put orange circles in here. And then on the one that has the orange in it, we're going to put the yellow circles in it. So I'll go offline and make a couple little patterns for the circles. And when we come back on, we'll show you how we're going to cut those. So we'll be back in just a second. Okay, so we're back. On the circles here, I changed my mind. I thought I was going to use the colored glass. I've got this nice piece of white iridescent. So I decided I'm going to cut the circles out on that. For the circle pattern, I kind of cheated on that. I have a little machine. It's called a Cricut. It does it's an XY axis. It cuts stencils. And so what I did with that is I took and I cut out 1-inch circles here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my cutter and we're just going to cut these into pieces here, like that. So you can just cut these into pieces. And there's a couple ways to do this. One, we can take our glass cutter. I'll show you both ways. We'll take our glass cutter, we'll cut around closer to our pattern, and then we'll grind them to fit our pattern. Or you can use what they call nippers. And the nippers actually chew away at the glass, and you can do that. Either way works pretty good. Go ahead, and we're going to take this, and we're just going to put our cutter right here. We're just going to do these edges. Now you can take your grosing pliers, these little guys right here, just stick it in here and just pop this away. And then we can just take, we'll just take and grind this back. Or the nippers look like this. They have two cutting wheels here. They don't come all the way together, but they pinch the glass. And if you do those, you can just take your nippers right up against your pattern, and you can just take and trim it like that. So most of the times I use the nippers for this rather than cut them. So that's the two different ways. This one here we did with the nippers. This one here we cut it away. This one here has got just right on the edge there. So I don't know if I like that one or not. I'm going to just do one more here. Kind of got it pretty close to the edge there. So the circles themselves, you want to try to make them as round as possible. If they're off a little bit, don't worry too much about it. We're going to wrap them in UCAME. It's RU90. It's really teeny. It's real small. So you'll have to look at that when we get ready to go. Okay, so we'll take and grind these two back here. This one here, I don't like the way this has kind of a flat area. I got too close to the edge of the glass. So that one's not going to grind out just right. These two here, we'll go ahead and grind. Then we'll wrap them and we'll set them in our job, and then we'll get ready. We can solder that up. So we'll be back in a minute. So if you don't have any way to cut these circles out, you can just draw them on the glass or draw them on a piece of paper and then stick them down with your glue stick. If you look at sometimes at some of the stores where they have stickers, they'll have stickers that are already circles, and they have all different sizes. Sometimes you can just buy a sheet of those. They're not very expensive, and stick them down. So there's a whole bunch of ways to get circles here. If you want to, you could put in you could put a triangle in here. You could do any of that type of thing. The reason we're putting the circles in here is that if we just solder it just like this, this is going to be the only connecting point to the whole thing. The rigidity of it won't be strong enough. So we need to have some support over here because this is where the whole thing's going to hang from. So this would not be a good situation just to solder this joint right here. So that's why the circles are going to be in here. Not only that they kind of give it a kind of an interesting look to it. So we'll be back in a minute. I'll take these, grind these down, and I'll show you how we're going to wrap them. And then we'll stick them in here, and then we'll get ready to solder it. All right, I got my two circles cut right here. Here they are right here. So we're going to wrap them. This is the UCAME here. This is called RU90. It's a 1/4 inch across the back side. Has a little tiny 1/8 inch round crown on it. And here's the channel that it goes into. So to wrap these, I took a string and I measured around them. It takes 3 1/4 inches to wrap them. And if you notice the angle, I cut these on an angle here, so when they go together, they'll be pretty tight fit. So these two little guys right here. So to put these on here, just put it over your glass, bring it around by hand, and bring this one over here, push it over. And then when you get it about this far, just take it on the edge of your work table and push it in tight. Then bring this on around. And bring it right into it. And when you get it right here again, go down to the edge of your work table and just push it on in. And you create this effect right here, that joint right there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take this pin out of here, move this away, and we're going to set this in here. And we're going to put the brake joint right here where we're going to solder it. Because this came is a little bit narrower than this came, we're going to put a shim up underneath here, and I'll show you what that looks like. It's just a small piece of cardboard. Looks just like this, little piece of chipboard. It's probably about a 32nd of an inch thick. And we're going to set this in here like this. Just like this. Then we're going to set our circle in here. We're going to set this right against there like that. And then we're going to take and we're going to pin it here. And here to push that in tight. We'll put one more pin right here to hold that in tight. Then we're going to take the other one here. Here again. I'm going to start it right here in the middle. Come on around. Pull it around. Up against your workbench. Push that in tight. Bring this on around here. When they almost come together, see the reason for cutting it on an angle? That'll make you get a good tight fit right there. Push it in on your workbench. And there's your joint right here. So that gives you an idea how to do that. Here again, now we'll take and pull these guys out. I'll put a pin right here so it doesn't move on us. We'll put this in here like this. Here again, we want it up against here. We'll take our shim, push it in here. Slide this around so it's right where you want it. By putting this solder joint or the gap right there, when you solder it, you won't see that. It'll just look like a round circle right there. So you'll get a nice looking finished job here. We'll take and pin it there. And we're going to pin it right there. All right, so this is the first one of 6 with the hanger. All the rest of the other 5 won't have a hanger, but it'll be finished exactly the same way. So I'll go offline. I'll get the soldering iron plugged in. We'll come back and we'll solder this up. And from there, I'll go offline and make the other 5. And then when we come back in, we're going to show you how to put them together. So this is our crazy spinner or our funky spinner, whatever you want to call it. It has a very interesting effect to it when it's hung up. Kind of looks like it might be something from outer space, the way it rotates around. So we'll be back in a little while, and I'll get the soldering iron out, and we'll get ready to solder this all up. And we'll have one of them done. We'll come back and put the rest of them together. So we'll be back in a minute. All right, well, we're back. We're going to go ahead and solder this up now. So we'll get ready to get my chair here and sit down. We're using a 60-40 solder, using a liquid flux. Have a little stainless steel brush right here that I'm going to brush the joints down with. The soldering iron I'm using is a Waller 100. It has a 700-degree tip in it. The tip regulates the temperature, so you don't need a rheostat with this particular iron, so that works out pretty nice. So first thing we're going to do is we're just going to hit all the joints real quick with my stainless steel brush here. That just shines them up a little bit, knocks off any oxidation that we may have on the lead, makes the solder flow just a little bit better. The new lead doesn't seem to oxidize as bad as the old, so that may not be necessary anymore, but I've gotten used to it, so I just stay with it. The flux itself is water soluble, so you just have to go over each joint with it. Washes right off. You don't need a whole lot on it. Sometimes I get carried away and put a little bit too much on, but it's not make a big deal here. I just take the iron and just tin it here just a little bit, and then you can start anywhere on the project you want. I'm going to start right here. Just going to take and solder this. We'll move along here. Here again, these are real easy to make, so you can make these pretty quick. Right here, we'll just solder these just a little bit on each side. And this one here, we'll just come in here on the top and we're just going to solder it shut. Just like that. Here again, on our circles, we're just going to come across here on the side, and we're going to solder it shut just like that. Pull this out a little bit. And we'll come around here. Just like that. Okay, now we'll just pull all these pins out. We'll just stick them in our work area right here because we'll use them later on when we get ready to make the rest of them. I'll do those offline. Whoops, I don't want to do that though. I don't want to pull up my my form here because that's how we know where this goes. Okay, so we can pull this apart. So this is how one of our little panels is going to look right here. We'll take and turn it over and we'll just solder the back side real quick. Soldering is one of those things you just kind of practice. Don't get discouraged if you have a little trouble with it. One of the tricks is to be sure you have a big enough soldering iron. About 100 watt is a good size. 80 watt will work also, but like I said, the iron I'm using, I like it because the tip itself regulates the temperature, and you don't have to worry too much about burning up your lead. If your tip's too hot, you'll burn right through the lead, and then you've kind of got a problem whether you're going to start over or try to patch it up, and that usually creates a big mess. So this works out quite well. I use this same iron for all of my projects, big and small, and I've had good luck with it over the years. Okay. Just about got it done right here. If you have one that you don't like, you can always go over it just a little bit more. This one here needs just a little bit more right there. Kind of like to try to make the beads all about the same if I can. Let me bring that down just a little bit. All right, that looks pretty good. So we'll just take and wipe that down a little bit. Give me a cloth here. Take and wipe this down. And now we talked about what are we going to do with all these edges. So I'm going to just show you right here real quick. We're going to take this right here. I'll get it up here close. We're going to take this and trim it back about 1/4 of an inch above. Then we're going to come in here and we're going to cut this right here and right here. And then we're going to take right here and we're going to cut this back to like a point. Take this little piece off right here. This little piece off here. And now we've created like a little point right here. So that point, we're going to just take it on our work table now. Trim this a little bit, just a little bit. We're going to take that on our work table and we're just going to bend this down. Here, I took the pin out of this one too. That wasn't too smart. See if I can find the hole that was in. There we go. I'm going to take and bend this back over into this hole right here so that it makes it easier when we get ready to solder it. So I just put it on the edge of my workbench, pull it over, and now you can see here it's filled that hole back up for us. So that makes it a little bit easier. So we'll do the same thing here. Trim it there. And then we're going to take, after we get this all soldered up, we're going to take and finish this off on a piece of 80 grit sandpaper. So we'll actually file it or sand it all down so it's smooth. And it makes a nice looking finished job. So we'll bend that back over. So here again, we've got this hidden in here. So I'll go these here. I'll just do a couple of these too. These are, see, here's the opening spot right in here. So we're going to cut these about a 1/4 inch long. Bring this out here. Cut these on the edge. Trim those up. And we're going to take this little point and bend it back over into here. So there it is right here, bent back over. So now that solder area there is much smaller than if we're trying to fill up that whole gap there. So it just helps finish this off a little bit. So it gives you a nice finished look on our project. And we'll do this on all of them so that when they go together, they'll have a nice look to them. Let me push this over. So here we go. We got it closed off here now. So if you're watching in my other videos, you'll know that when we get ready to close those now, we're just going to take, we'll put a little flux all the way on all of these, up around our hanger right here, and on this last one right here. And then I need some way to hold this up. Now you could use a couple little pieces of 2x4 or anything else. I'm going to use what they call a drill vise. I'll get that real quick. Drill vise looks like this. And we're going to set this in here a little bit on an angle. Like that. We're just going to take our iron and we're going to just take and fill this in now. Whoop, not too good. If you have one that you're having a little trouble with, don't stay with it. Go back and work somewhere else and then come back, let it cool off a little bit. Now we can fill that in. There we go. So then we're going to turn this one over this way. Close that up. Get this to solder in here. One of the reasons that's creating a problem right there is the glass is right there. So obviously the solder is not going to stick to the glass. So sometimes it gets to be a kind of a little bit of a problem. So we'll work it out. If you have that happening, just take and lay your solder on here real lightly and just let it drop in here like that. And then you can take and you can create the effect you want. And we're going to, like I said, we're going to sand those all down so they won't look like that when they're all done. Okay, up here on these top ones here, we'll do the same thing. The ones that you have the most edge bent over are the easiest ones to solder because they don't have very much area to cover up. Okay, on our hanger here now, remember the legs are going back underneath here so it can't get out of there. We're just going to leave this on an angle like this. We're going to take our soldering iron and we're going to tin it right here like that. And we're just going to set it in here and we're just going to let it sit until the solder flows off of it. Just like that. We're going to do it one more time. Like that. And we'll turn it over and do one more side. This one here. Just like that. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'll go offline and I'm going to take and knock all these edges down and we'll get ready to finish this piece up here. If you have one like this that you got a glob of solder on it, you can just take and heat it and just pull it away like that. Gives you less area to try to take and take down. Like here, here's kind of a mess right here. We'll kind of fix that up a little bit. Okay. All right, so I'll go offline. We'll clean this all up. We'll wash it up. And this will be the first part of our spinner. If you have any little bubbles like this one right here, just take your dikes, come in here real flat with it, and just pick them off. And we'll go from there. All right, so I'll be back in a second and we'll get this all cleaned up. All right, so I got it all cleaned up now. See, here's what I did to the edges here. See, I took and rolled them all over, took and chamfered them down. The little scratches you see here, those will go away after a little while. They'll oxidize back. Or if you're going to Pantene them, you'll just basically, they'll disappear when you blacken them up. So anyway, you can see how nice everything all looks. All the corners look real nice. So we'll make 5 more of these, and then when we come back, I'll show you how we're going to put them all together. So I think it's going to make a real attractive spinner for us. It's kind of a fun project, and it's not very difficult to make. So I'll be back after I get the other 5 made, and we'll put them on a little jig that I've made to put them together, and we'll solder this thing up, and we'll be all done with the project. So I hope you followed along and are enjoying this particular video. See you in a little while. Okay, well, we're back now. We've got all 6 of our panels done now. They're all been cleaned up on the corners and so forth. Over here, this is the one with the hanger on it right here. So we'll start with this one right here. And we're going to mix these up. We're going to have a yellow, orange, yellow, orange, yellow, orange on our spinner. So I'll get my wife out here to help me. We'll take the camera down, and we're going to go over onto a little jig, and we're going to put these together as a set of 2. And from there, we'll put them on a big jig, and we'll solder them all together to make the spinner. So we'll be back in a second. All right, well, we're back. My wife's come out here to give me a hand with these. So what we're going to do, we're going to take and put this first set together. If you'll take a look at the edges here, I've put them on some 80 grit sandpaper, and I've knocked down all the solder joints so they'll fit nice and tight. So the first one we're going to put in here will be the one with the hanger on it. And we're going to set it in here just like this. Pull it up like that. This one here. Here again, all the clear ones are going to go to the center in the middle. That's going to go like that. I'm going to take a couple pins. And I'm just going to take and push this in nice and tight. And I'm going to pin this here and here to hold that. Now, when I solder these, I'm just going to tack solder it right here in the center here. So we'll take our flux. Just give it a little flux, and I'm just going to use just a little bit of solder. I'm going to just tin my iron just a little bit. Going to make sure it's up against it. I'm going to push it down nice and tight. And solder it just like that. Okay, so we'll do all 3 sets like that. So this is the first one. This is what you want it to look like. It'll be nice and clean. So we'll set the second one in here. Be sure you make sure you got the clear one in the corner there each time. Otherwise, your spinner won't have a center in it that'll be proper. The reason I'm just spot soldering these, because I'm going to go and put some little clips on them and draw them in super tight to each other so that they will have no gaps in between them whatsoever. All right, and we got the third one we're going to do. So far we've got 2 sets of 2. This will give us our 3rd set here. And the way this little jig works is it has a little lip right here, and that takes up the thickness of your cane so that it makes this one here sit right flush on it. So the 2 edges of this is just kissing each other. So there's not a big gap right there. If you don't do that, you're going to have a problem trying to get them lined up. So you need to make some kind of a little jig to hold those. Here again, I'm going to hold this down tight. Just solder it just like that. All right, so that's all we're going to do with this. I'm going to go back and put the camera back up top side. I'll show you how we're going to go ahead and solder these up tight. And from there, we'll go ahead and we'll put it on the big jig and put it all together. So thank you so very much, wife, and we'll get this all together. Okay, so we're back here. We're going to go ahead and solder these up a little bit tighter now, since we've got them all put together. The jigs, if you want to see what that looks like, it's just an old piece of wood put together here, and it's got a lip on it, which is the thickness of the cane, the U-cane. So this U-cane fits in here, so that when you put this U-cane to that one, and another piece of U-cane, when they're together like this, they create that angle right there. So this is the area that you're soldering. So that just helps space that up. If you don't do that, then you're trying to figure out how am I going to get these two to line up where they'll be on top of each other in the correct position. Otherwise, they want to look like this. If you don't have your something in here to keep that up there, these will start getting down in here. They'll get crooked, and then you'll have a kind of a big mess on your hands. So you need some way to shim that up. And when we get on to the bigger jig, you'll notice I put in a little piece of wood that goes along here that's that thickness, so it keeps that propped up. So the jig is good to use to get them together. We just soldered, if you notice, we just soldered them one right in the center here. And here's what we're looking for. We want this to be nice and clean. Right here, I don't know if you can see through here or not. There's a little bit of a gap right here. We don't want to have that. So what we're going to do, I've made some clips here. These are made out of the old-fashioned paper clips. These normally are rolled over like this. I've taken a pair of pliers and I've rolled them backwards so they have like some little fingers on them. So when I take these, when I push this in here, if I push this in here, it's going to take and close that gap up. And I can just take and push it tight so it closes that up. Here's a little gap in there. We just want to push that in there. We're going to close it up tight. You just take and flip them over after you get it closed up tight. You can just take they'll stay right there where you're at. Just take and flux these just a little bit. You don't need to put a lot of solder on here. This is a cosmetic thing. I like to close that up so it doesn't have any big gaps in it. I'm just going to tin this a little bit. Oops, I'm going to tin this a little bit. And of course, I've got solder on both sides here, so I'm just going to set this in here, just like that. Come down here, just a little tin. There we go. That's all there is to it. So now we can take our clips off. And it gives us a nice clean edge right here. Just a little teeny bit right there. That's acceptable. We won't worry about that. So that helps give it a little bit of rigidity. So we got it all in there. So we'll do the other two here. Now this one here is much better. It hasn't got any gaps in it at all. There's a little bit right there. But we'll go ahead and we'll close that up. Those little clips are just handy. You could actually take and put on a pair of gloves that will repel the heat, and you could actually hold those shut with your fingers and go ahead and solder that shut. So, in fact, I'll show you. We'll do one with the glove on. Show you what I'm talking about. So we're going to just take it here. Just put our iron right here. Take and tap it in there. A little bit more solder. That one's not got quite enough on there. There we go. Let me get my gloves real quick, and I'll show you how you can do that if you don't have any clips or if you don't want to make some. Uh, these are the same clips that I use for the solar lanterns and for the light tower, all those things. Just kind of gives you a little bit of an aid to help you along with that. Let me get my glove real quick. These are just mechanical gloves. They help retract the heat. So there's all kinds of these are on the market. So we'll take a look at this one here. You can see this has got a pretty big gap in it here, right here, if I can show it here. Right here. So I can just take and I'll pull it together with my fingers. So we're going to take it here. We'll give it a little bit of flux on both sides. Going to take my iron tinnet. Then I'm going to take and hold this right here with my glove. I can put this in here and solder it right there. So this gets a little bit warm, but just hang on to it. Come down here. Do the same thing down here. Whoops. Take and tin your iron just a little bit. I'm sticking my fingernails through my gloves, or not through them, but on them to hold this together tight. I'm just going to set this right here. There you go. So I prefer the clips. They hold it higher than you can hold it with your hands, but you still get the same result. You get it nice and clean here. There's a little bit that came through right there. If you really want to get fussy, you don't like that, you could put your clip on there and reheat that, and that'll suck that in. But that little bit right there is not gonna bother us. And I think we're going to Pantene this anyway, so the Pantene will hide all of that. So we'll go offline now, and I'll get the bigger jig that puts this all together, and we'll show you how these pieces all go together. So we've got all of our sets here now that are all put together. So we'll get the other jig, and we'll come back and we'll get ready to put that together. Okay, so this is the big jig. This has been made out of junk 2x4s. I just took and put on my table saw and sawed up a bunch of them and put them together. This is the area right here I was talking about. This is the little ledge that they'll sit on. We'll start right here at the top. We'll start with the one with the hanger on it. This one right here. And it'll fit in here like this, right on those little ledges. So you can see how it's sitting right here. Right in here is what I'm talking about, right here and right here on this side here. It's going to sit in there like this. This one here now is going to go here. And we want to go yellow, orange, yellow, orange. So this one here will be in here like this. That fits in there like that. I'm going to take a couple pins here. I want to pin this up tight to push that in there tight. Here's the areas we're looking for right in here. We want to be sure that we have a good tight fit right here. I see this is a little bit up right here. We'll take care of that when we get ready to do it. So we're going to just solder right in the middle on this one right there. So we're taking, flux it. I'm going to take and tin my iron just a little bit. I'm going to push this down tight. And I'm going to go ahead and solder it right there. Now this other one here, this is going to go over here. It's going to be yellow down, orange, and it's going to go over here on this side here. We'll turn this around so you can see it here. It's going to fit in here. And this is the critical area right here. You want to watch this area right here. This area right here, down in here. Okay, you can see that it's sitting next to it right here at the top. but it's spread apart here in the bottom. That's fine. We won't worry about that right now because this is the last one we're going to solder. Some people solder this with it going up and down. I'm going to show you how I do it. So I'm going to push this in here. Make sure this is fitting where I want it. Make sure it's lined up right here. We want to check that a couple times. Be sure that you don't have a gap right there. See, that moved away, so I don't want it. I want it to be right there. So I'm going to take and pin this one also. I like to pin these in tight so that they don't move on you. So we're going to solder this one right here. So we're just taking flux it just a little bit. Keep your iron nice and clean so it's nice and hot. That's already got enough solder for what we want to do. We're going to come right here. Okay, we got it. Now, rather than try to solder this one up and down, we could turn this up like this. But what we're going to do, we're actually going to take this out. And I'm going to come and turn this around. And right here now, this is the one. See here, this is the one that's not soldered. And I want to push it together real tight right here. So here again, I'm going to take and push this in really hard. I'm going to take and pin it again. These pins go into this 2x4 pretty hard, so you got to push down pretty hard. There we go. Here again, we're just going to tack solder that. Take and tin your iron again. Push this down. I want it down here. All right, that's good right there. Just tack and tack it. All right. So now we've got it all together. So we can take this out of the way here. Here's our spinner right here. It's going to be all put together. These areas right here now, I tacked it in the middle, but if you look at this one right here, you can see it's got a little gap in it. We'll use our clips. See, I can close that up right there. So we'll use our clips. We'll close up all these areas and we'll take and go ahead and solder the top. We'll do this one real quick so you can see what we're going to do here. Here again, you could hold this with your hand like this and close that up. I'm going to just take and put my clips in here, pull that shut. Come down to the bottom and do the same thing. And then if you've got something laying around like a little box or something like that, we'll just take a little box here and we'll prop that up on the box like this. Okay, we'll take and flux these two spots right here, one there and one right there. And the reason I'm just tinning the iron right now, we've already soldered these two joints together, so they've got more than enough solder. Just let it flow around. And that way you don't end up with a big gob of solder on your project. There we go. Oh, that needs just a little bit more. There we go. So I'll go offline and solder up all the other ones on the back side here. So we'll get ready to go. And then when I come back, we'll show you how we're going to Pantene this. And then we'll put a chain on it. We'll go out and hang it. So that's the one we just did. This one here looks good. This one here's got a little bit of a spring to it, so we'll pin that when we do it. So we'll go ahead. So I think it's going to come out very nice for us. We'll be back in a minute, and we'll get this all washed up, and then we'll go ahead and I'll show you how we're going to Pantene it. All right, we're back. I got everything all cleaned up here now, so you can see how nice and shiny everything is. I use a Scotch-Brite pad to shine up all this because you want to knock off any oxidation that's on your on your project. And then just wash it up really good with soap and water. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to Pantene it. This is the Pantene I'm using. This is for solder and lead. Take and shake it up really good. And I'm going to put a spray top on top of it. Spray cap. And I'm just going to take and spray it on. So we'll just start right here at the top. Just like that. If you watch my other video, you saw we had a lot of trouble with this spray top. Well, this one here is a new one. So we're going to moisten this all up. I'm going to go over the whole thing here. I'm wearing gloves because this stuff is a little bit toxic. The manufacturer suggested you wear gloves with it. So that's that one side. I'm going to turn it over. Do this side here also. This method does have a tendency to waste a little bit of Pantene because you're using so much of it. But I like it, gives a nice even color to it. And then after I get that done, I have a brush here. And this brush is dedicated nothing but for Pantene. And I can take this up here. And I go over this. Go over the edges real good. Like I said before, Pantene helps hide any imperfections that you have in your soldering and so forth. Plus it gives it a nice look to it where you have the real bright colors coming through against the black lead. And Pantene is one of those things, kind of like soldering. Practice, practice, practice to get it to where you like it. For some reason, some days the Pantene seems to work better than it does for other days. If it starts to come out and it's all splotchy, that means that you didn't get it cleaned off good. And the best thing to do if it comes out and it's got a lot of ghosty or white splotches on it, just take your Scotch-Brite pad or whatever you're using, steel wool or whatever you've used to clean it down, and just go over it again and knock part of that off, and then reapply your Pantene, and it'll help take care of those areas. All right, that's about as good as it's going to get. So we're going to let this set for about 10 minutes. We'll take it offline here real quick. Get a couple paper towels here and clean up our mess. And I just spread out an inexpensive plastic tablecloth. This one here is from the dollar store. So if you get it dirty, we don't worry about it. So here's our project, all Pantene. So we'll let it sit for about 10 minutes. And then we're going to wash it down. And we're going to wash it down with really cold, clear water. Or they do make a product that you can use. They say that it keeps it from getting the white streaks on it. We could probably use that also. I have a bottle of that. Maybe we'll go ahead and try that and see how it works. I haven't used it before, so we'll give it a whirl. So all right, so we'll let that sit for a little while. And when we come back, we'll finish it up. So we'll be back in a second, or about 10 minutes. All right, well, we're ready to put the chain and the swivel on it and go out and we'll take a couple pictures of it outside in the breeze. I may just put this one on a spinner so it'll turn around. So here's our project now. So it came out really nice. Very happy with the way it looks. And so the chain's going to go right here on the hook, right here through our cotter pin. And the chain itself is made, it's a number 16 jack chain. It's got a number 11 split ring on the top, a number 10 on the bottom here. And we're just going to take a little tool that I have. I'm going to just open this up right here, just like that. Insert it into the cotter pin. Then I'm just going to take my long nose pliers, and we'll just take and we'll rotate it around in the cotter pin here, just like that. And there we go. We're all ready to take it out and hang it up. Just show you how our spinner's going to look. I've been putting the swivel down close to the unit itself, the spinner. My theory on that is that the chain has a certain amount of flex in it, and it may take up part of the actual swivel action of the spinner. So I don't know if that's really true or not, but that's my theory. So I'm going to be putting them down on the bottom like that. So we'll take this out, and we're going to take and hang it outside, and we're going to go ahead and finish the video off. I hope you guys have been following along on this one. It was a fun one to make. It looks very complicated. It's actually pretty simple, and I hope you guys will give it a try. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, I hope you will. And if you have any questions or comments, just send me a comment, and I'll take and send you a reply back. So thank you for watching, and till we make the next video. We'll see you later. Okay, we have our spinner all done now, so we've got it out in the patio, and we just hung it up. It's actually on a motorized spinner, so that you can get a good look at it. It came out very nice. It's a nice, simple project. It looks complicated, but once you get into it, it's not that difficult. So I hope you guys will give it a try. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe to my channel, and we'll see you on the next video.